Well, and now we want to finish up the Greek of Acts chapter 14. Not too many verses today, just 24 through 28, and we'll be done with the 14th chapter of Acts. So Paul has been on, this is the finishing up his first missionary journey in Acts. They went to Cyprus, then to Pisidian Antioch, then to Iconium, then to Lystra, then to Derbe, then back to Lystra, then back to Iconium, then back to Antioch and Pisidia. And so this is where they're going to return now. These are just these verses, bring them back to Antioch in Syria, where they began their first missionary journey. Okay, so verse 24. And having gone through Pisidia, they came into Pamphylia. I should have put up a map here. But first, the Greek. So Elth, I hope you remember that Elth is the aorist of Erchomai. So this is from de-Erchomai. It is aorist, and then maiont is an active participle, so it's aorist active participle, nominative masculine plural from de-Erchomai, and having gone through Pisidia. So Pisidia is up in the north. So if, let's see, can I do a Turkey? So here's Turkey. My top arm is on the Black Sea, and then my bottom arm is on the Mediterranean Sea. So right in the middle there is Pisidian Antioch. And then south it goes back to the coast where they started. So they went into Pamphylia down at the coast on the bottom of Turkey. So down here where my watch is, they came down from the middle down to the watch in Pamphylia. And having spoken in Perga, that's in Pamphylia, the bottom, down there at the bottom, that's where they came into Turkey. Having spoken the word in Perga, they descended into Attalia. Attalia is the port village. So a lot of times you had a city that was near the water, and then you had a little village that was on the water. That's the way it was in Antioch of Syria over here. Seleucia was the port village that they left for Cyprus from. Hope I'm not confusing you. I should have put a map up here. Oh, woe is me. But anyway, you can look it up in your any study Bible and look at these maps. So this is an aorist because of the sigma alpha, aorist active because of the ant, aorist active participle, nominative masculine plural of laleo. Having spoken in Perga the word, they descended. Son here is not, this is aorist, but it's aorist because of bay. This is katabino, and the ein is not there. No, bine, no, never mind. Anyway, so it's aorist. The sigma alpha is actually a third person plural ending. They went down into Attalia. Okay, verse 26. And from there, so here's a crash, a contraction. We don't normally have a breathing mark when a word begins with a consonant. So it's kai akathan. So it's like won't or can't. It's a contraction. So the kai means and akathan means from there. Then on the end of something usually means from. We saw this yesterday or the day before. So ake means there, and akathen means from there. So and from there they sailed into Antioch. This is not Antioch in Pisidia. This is Antioch in Syria. Okay, two Antiochs, very confusing. They knew that we'd read this 2,000 years later, and they wanted to confuse us. Okay, so sailed into Antioch. So this is aorist because of the sigma alpha. The new here is a third person plural. There's the augment. So anapluo means to sail. So they sailed into Antioch, where this is a then. It's like a relative pronoun with a then, from which, anyway, they were having been entrusted, whence they had been entrusted to the grace of God, unto the work which they fulfilled. So I think if I'm reading this right, it's referring back to this is the place that sent them. This is the place that had entrusted them to the grace of God for the work which they had now fulfilled. So this is a periphrastic. It's a form of the verb to be with a participle. This is the imperfect of a me, were, and this is a perfect participle. See the reduplication. Ending is shoved right on the stem because this is dido, me, so there's no connecting vowel. That's not a connecting vowel. That's part of the stem. So this is perfect passive participle, nominative, masculine, plural. And so past tense, had, from which they had been entrusted to the grace of God. And the grace of God had seen them through, hadn't it? This is a beautiful picture. The church at Antioch had entrusted them, given them over to the grace of God. And they had remained in the grace of God for the entire trip, for the work to which they had been called. And now they've finished the task and they've returned, and it is a task that which they fulfilled. So this is sigma alpha aorist. There's an augment, plerao. It is third person plural, so it's aorist, active, indicative, third singular from plerao. Beautiful, beautiful verse, if I'm interpreting correctly. So verse 27, and, procrastinator, and having arrived, and having gathered the church together. So this is a participle. Men are passive participles, but this is genomai, paragenomai, so it's deponent. Gen, because it's G-E-N as opposed to G-I-N, means it's aorist. This is also aorist because of agag. It's the aorist form of ago. So having gathered together, my aunt is an active participle, so this is aorist active participle, nominative, masculine, plural. Having gathered together the church, they were telling them, imperfect tense now, present stem, anangelo. Remember, the double lambda words lose a lambda in the aorist and in other tenses. So this is a present stem with an augment, which means it's imperfect. They began to tell them. As many things as God did, God, hathaos, did. This is the aorist of poiao. Remember sen, we've seen sen over and over and over and over again. What is sen? Aorist active indicative third singular, and it's from poiao. As many things as God did with them, and that God opened to the Gentiles the door of faith. Isn't this great? The door of faith has been opened, and the Gentiles can now come in on the basis of faith. Anoigo is, this is aorist here, because a xi is the key to a hidden sigma, so we have sigma epsilon nu, which is the same as sigma epsilon nu. So this is aorist active indicative third singular from anoigo. It's so then alpha has been augmented by lengthening. Okay, I love it when God opens the door of faith, and the door of faith now stands open for everyone. Final verse of this chapter, verse 28. And they passed time not a little with the disciples. So they stay there at Antioch. In fact, I would say they're going to be at Antioch for about 2 years before they start. In about the year 50, Paul will start a second missionary journey, and Barnabas. They'll end up going their separate ways. We're going to see this, I think, at the end of chapter 15, so we'll see it at the end of next week. We're about the year 48 when they finish. So they finish the first missionary journey. First missionary journey is 46 to 48, something like that. This is, I think this is an imperfect diatribo. So it's just the present stem with an augment. They pass time not a little, which is a idiomatic expression for quite a bit of time with the disciples. And so 49, Acts chapter 15, generally we think takes place in the year 49, AD 49. Well, there's our Greek for this week. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, for patrons only, it's only $5. If you're grateful for these videos I do every day, sometimes I take, an hour or more to make these videos, and it's almost all of it is free. And so if you would be so kind as to donate $5 a month, that'd be lovely. The benefit is you get to download the podcasts, I think. I think it's hard to download the podcast if you're not a patron. And also, I do a patron post. So tomorrow's patron post, I think I'm going to look at this question of Galatians and the eye trouble and the founding of the churches. Talk a little bit about the North Galatian versus the South Galatian theory and all that sort of stuff. Well, have a great week.